and welcome back to our podcast, Heart of Hope. I'm your host, Rachel, with my co-host. I knew you'd laugh. I knew everyone would get through that without you laughing.
You just went, "What?" You reminded me of, what's his name? Nolate.
What?
Because you went, "Host." It just sounded like Paddy McGinn.
Horse? I know,
Sorry.
it just came out like that. I don't know why.
And I was going to try not to laugh, but it just made me laugh, sorry.
No, I know. I think the fact you were trying really hard not to laugh made it obvious that you were going to laugh.
And then I just thought of Nolate.
Anyway, we digress. That is not the topic for this month. The topic is money matters, because it, to a certain extent, it does.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people I know who have children on the spectrum, and they just don't know what they're entitled to. They don't know what they're eligible for. There's things that they thought, oh no, I'm not eligible for that, and actually it's like, yeah, you are. So we're going to talk a bit about that. We're going to look into the different benefits that you're entitled to, grants you can apply for, resources, because I think it's one of those where you can't assume everyone knows. Sometimes people don't know, and the only way you know is by asking and talking about it. So first of all, before we dig into that stuff, because some people might already know about all these things, what are your thoughts, Beck, on people applying for and using grants like DLA and PIP? How do you feel about it? Because I know there's some parents out there with children on the spectrum, and they are iffing and ahhing. They're like, I'm not sure if I should. Do I, don't I?
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because PIP has, especially lately with all the changes going on with PIP, isn't it? And I think that's what puts people off. And they're like, forget it, I don't want to get involved in all that kind of stuff. What I would say, if you're entitled to it and you know that you're entitled to it, go for it. Just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Because if you don't apply for it, well, you're at no lose-lose anyway, if that makes any sense. If you apply for it and you don't get it, well, no matter. And if you don't apply, then you're not going to get it anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it's worth putting an application in there and seeing. I mean, from experience from old jobs, I understand, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, I understand why the government are doing what they're doing. I do to extent understand, and I get it because I've seen it first-hand experience. Now, I understand people's frustrations, and I get, well, certain people are going to lose out and certain people are going to, I do understand it, but I do think something does need to happen, but it's just got to be done in the right way. So to me, if you've got, for yourself or your children or whatever, and you think you're entitled, I think go for it. Just Citizens Advice Bureau are amazing at PIP forms. When in my old job, whenever we had anybody that wanted to apply for PIP, that's where I point them. Citizens Advice Bureau, amazing. Brag, brag, brag. So I would say that. And I mean, there's so many different options now with PIP. You can have, especially if you've got children with needs and things like that, you can apply to have lesser payments so that you can have a disability car. How many people struggled, cars are not cheap now, are they? So if you can have a disability car instead of the higher payments, and you need a car, we'll do it, isn't it? So
yeah,
I do think it's worth
I think no, it is definitely worth applying. That's my view on it. I think there's some parents out there that don't realise what DLA could be used for.
Yeah.
In our situation with our little boy, he's broken 3 beds. He's broken at least 4 or 5 night lights. He's, damaged things in his room. We've had to alter his door and make adjustments. So things like that, weighted blankets, sensory lights, all of these things, DLAs, that's what it's there for.
Absolutely.
Also, if you've got a child that's in in nappies or anything like that, or they have need to chew, you can get sensory chewy toys. So don't just think, oh, it's just for kids with physical disability, although there is an element for that. It is there also to cater for these situations you can find yourself in where you're having to replace things. One thing I would say is if you get told no the first time, that doesn't mean
Yeah.
you're not entitled. Because I applied for my daughter, and the first time I had a letter saying, this is what a disability is, as if I didn't know what it was. And when I got citizens' advice, like my sisters mentioned, to come and look, they looked at my form, they looked at everything I submitted, because I did a copy, always do a copy. And they said, you've put everything in. All the evidence is here. So they wrote a letter on my behalf as well,
Yeah.
saying, actually look at the application properly, please. So,
Amazing.
and obviously then the money was awarded. So I would say don't assume just because they've said no once that you're not entitled. Because there is a rumour going around, not sure how true it is, that they will say no first time just to test how much you actually need it.
Mm.
So that is one thing I have heard a few parents say.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory because I don't know from what experience. It's again from experience. A lot of people that I've known have claimed for PIP and have been awarded first time is unbelievable. So I think it possibly it just
Mm.
depends on who's doing your application. I think.
That's probably something to consider. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. As well, the disability mobility card that you mentioned, Beck, you do have to come under mobility
yeah.
to, I think, a certain level to be able to apply for that.
I,
So, like for example, I probably wouldn't be able to apply for that for my
you
kids,
probably could. I only know from experience.
because
Oh, God.
so I've looked into it. So you have to have at least the middle rate of mobility, and Lucas is on the lowest rate.
Okay.
So you have to have middle or higher, from what I've looked at on the form.
Okay. Only from experience. Oh, this is a difficult one. I just know a family that I used to work with, and they had a disability card because they had children with autism. But they, so I don't know whether
Yeah,
it's
but maybe
changed.
they went higher on the mobility
I don't know.
side of it. I don't know.
Maybe best people to ask would be cab.
What I would say is look into it. If you're going to make a decision to apply, look into it. To anyone who's looking at it, um, look at whether anything has changed, because like obviously with PIP things are starting to change with the criteria.
Yeah,
So it could be that criteria will change and it'll make you eligible or ineligible, as the case may be. Um, so yeah, there's DLA for children under a certain age.
yeah.
So I'm just going to read a little bit from my resources on here. I might find it on here actually, Beck, about the car.
Oh, maybe.
Um, so disability living allowance being yeah, if you live in England or Wales, you get a letter telling you about how you can apply for PIP. So obviously that's when you're older. So you can only apply for DLA if you're under 16. So what you'd have to do is for any of your children with a disability that are under 16, you would apply on their behalf. And obviously you would have to highlight the difficulties and challenges, and what kind of support systems you're putting in place. And it does ask you to give a rough idea of what you would spend the money on. And obviously, it's not just for things like replacing equipment, you can use it for supporting swimming lessons, whatever you think would benefit your child socially and in the community, you can put those kind of things down as well. So there's that. And obviously, as I said, make sure you make sure when you do fill out the form, you basically talk about your worst ever day, because children aren't going to be the exact same every single day, but they want to know what is it like on your worst day, on the hardest day, because that gives an idea of the level of need as well. And then personal independent payment, that's for adults. So if you've got a child that's living with you and they've turned 18, but obviously maybe they've got challenging needs and they're not ready for supported living, you could apply for PIP for them. And there are two parts to PIP, so a daily living part and a mobility part. So very similar to DLA, there are different levels. that include mobility as well. So for the daily living, you can get help. You can get PIP if you need help with preparing food, eating and drinking, managing medication or treatments, personal care. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of it, but it does in this. Managing money, socializing and being around other people, talking, listening, and understanding. So essentially, processing information. The mobility part, it's about working out a route and following it. I think that's meant to say routine.
Oh,
Physically moving around and leaving your home. If what?
sorry, there's a bit of a delay. The making a route and being able to follow it, that's for people who, for example, if I needed to get to the post office, it's going to
Oh,
test whether
okay.
that person, so would you be able to tell
Oh,
me the way to
I
the
got you
post
now.
office and that, yeah, that kind of thing. It's like testing
Right.
navigational
And obviously
skills.
they, yeah, and it talks about the level of difficulty in completing the
Yeah.
tasks as well. And it does say you can get help from citizens' advice. So that's really, really great to know. Now, the other one I'm going to talk about is access to work. So, not many people know about this, but access to work is a grant that you can claim if you have a disability or a health condition. So, this is more catered towards the adults listening. Um, I've got ADHD, so I applied for access to work, and I have to say it's really supported me staying in work, especially with managing like RSD, emotional dysregulation, managing my workload. Because as an ADHD, I'm a bit of a people pleaser, so I'll say yes to everything. I think I've got all the time in the world because my calendar's empty, So having coaching sessions and helping me break down my tasks has really, really helped me to not burn out. I mean, coaching is not the only thing you can use it for. You can use it for tools that you might need to use for your computer or whatever the disability is. Work obviously has to provide a certain amount, but maybe there's certain things that work have actually helped you with, but they're not under the remit of what they can give. Then you can apply for access to work grant to help with other things. And the one key thing to know about it is you essentially pay for what you need and then access to work refunds you. So you've got to do this whole thing of keeping receipts and invoices to evidence that you've been invoiced for what you've used if it's a session and that you've paid for it for you to get your money back. Or you just keep receipts from the items you've bought to help support you as well. And it's a really handy thing that I didn't know was there, and it's really, really helped me. So I thought it was a good one to share
Yeah.
for anyone who needs a bit of extra support.
Um,
Um,
how quickly do you get your money back, Rach?
it is a bit of a stickler. So I think it was around October last year I started my sessions, and there was a bit of delay initially with getting the money back swiftly. One of the issues is it says that you have a person in your workplace assigned to sign off to say that you've attended the sessions. As an example, say you've got coaching sessions, you cannot essentially get the claim verified until that person has signed it. So they sign it, Access to Work sees it, but they can't sign it until after you've had your session. And a lot of the time you have to pay for these things before. So it can take about 4 or 5 weeks before you actually see the money come back.
Oh,
So
okay.
that is the downside. Um, Once you've kind of gotten into the rhythm of you've been doing it for a couple of months, they seem to be more on the ball with paying you back. As soon as your claim is signed off by your supervisor, they're a bit more. After a couple of months, I noticed anyway, they were much quicker with it.
So at the
It does
moment,
take time to even get, yeah.
sorry, I think there's a bit of delay. So at the moment, are you having, so every time you have a session, do you have to pay up front for that session, then you get your money back? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So essentially you're not really paying for it because you do get your money back.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, it's I suppose it's being mindful of your own financial circumstances and what you can manage. I will say applying for it, there is a bit of a wait. I applied for it, and a good couple of months later, I finally got a phone call with an advisor. And an advisor will ask you, what would you like to use your access to work grant for? They'll ask what kind of support work is provided, if they've made any accommodations, which of course my workplace did. But I personally felt that coaching would be beneficial for me, which is something outside of the remit of the workplace. And so they said to me to research what coaching group I thought would work for me, find out the costings, come back to them, and then they put in a request for the amount that you ask for, and then it gets granted.
Oh wow.
And then you've just got to obviously evidence every single time, but
You've been.
it's good to use. Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
fab. So the next one I'm going to talk about is a tool I heard about, which led me to find out about a grant, which I wish I knew about.
Right.
So I'm excited to share. Okay. So me and my husband were looking at trying to get a decent bed for our little boy because, as I mentioned earlier, he's broken a few different beds. One of them was a toddler type style bed, which he would drag around the room and ram against the door. So that broke. And the other bed, he broke the headboard and the drawers off of it, and that was a proper single bed. So we found out about this thing called Safe Spaces, and they create beds for children with special needs, in a way that secures the child in the bed. It's kind of like, I don't want to say tent, but that kind of idea. That you can zip up from the outside, but they can't unzip from the inside, as a way to keep them settled and in one space. If you were to get a bed like this, you need to contact your fire department, because then they have to work out a fire safety risk assessment of, if there was a fire, how do you get your child out of that safe space safely? And usually they'll talk about windows in the bedroom and approaching from the outside in that way. So they are expensive. They can cost, well, I would say from 5,000 up. And the ones that are adjustable with age, so you can adjust the height and everything as the child gets older to suit the child, so you don't have to keep buying beds, they cost upwards of 10 grand. So I was looking at their website and it said funding options. Okay. And one of the options was to speak to the occupational therapy team and the local authority, as if your child has a need and you can evidence they have a need, they should be able to provide you with a safe space bed. They should be able to put you forward and you get one.
Wow.
So I got in touch with my occupational therapy team, and their response was, don't hold your breath.
Oh.
Yes. Because so many people have been putting the same request in, so they're inundated basically. Great. However, also on their website, which is leading me to my next topic, is, if I can find it, yeah, the Disability Facilities Grant. So it said another funding option, Disability Facilities Grant. So it says you could get a grant from your council if you're disabled and need to make changes to your home.
Okay.
So if you have a physical, so if you are physically disabled, have a learning disability, have age-related needs, are autistic, have cognitive impairment, so it covers all of the criteria to be eligible. So things like, it does say things like widening doors and installing ramps, right? But it could be something as simple as you having to put all your TVs on the walls because you know your child is going to destroy them. It could be building an extension, improving access to your garden, like the list goes on. And it says the grant won't affect any benefits you get. Now, on the let's see, I'm going to click next, see if it says the same thing. Okay, so in Wales, because we live in Wales, I'll tell you for each one, just in case you live somewhere else. But in Wales, the grant is up to 36,000. In England, the grant is up to 30,000. And in Northern Ireland, it's up to 25,000. It says, unfortunately, in Scotland, it's not available, but support for equipment and adaptations is out there. Now, what frustrates me is, Becky will know, or Hannah will know, myself and my husband felt like we had to take a loan out to sort some things out for the house, to support from Lucas, right? Because of things he'd broken, blah, blah, blah. And after the fact, we find out we could have applied for a grant. So we found out now, and there are still things that we need to sort out for him. So guess what? Definitely going to apply for that.
You could get a
But
bed.
you don't find out unless... What? Yeah, I could get a bed that way instead, couldn't I?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You could get 3.
So I could get 3. So yeah. So those are the things I found out about. And there's probably plenty more out there. But like I was talking to somebody in work the other day, and they said, I didn't know I could get DLA for my son, and he's autistic. And I was like, yeah. She went, like for weighted blankets and things like that. I was like, yeah, you know. Because obviously, for our children, we want to give them what they need. But it tends to be the thing, I'm getting all lyrical now, that you type special needs or autistic or sensory in front of any item you need, and the price just whacks right up, goes really, really high. So like we had to get a special needs pushchair for Lucas because he's a safety risk, not because he can't walk or he can't run, but he's fast, he's strong, and if we're not careful, he runs off. So taking him to and fro somewhere quite far, you need that because he's secure in it. And of course, because he's nearly 6, you need a bigger one than a standard pushchair. Costs money. So that's the kind of things you can use it for. So any thoughts there, Hannah, on what I've shared is out there? Did you know about half of the stuff I shared is available?
No, obviously I knew about PIP and DLA, but like it's amazing how like there's so many grants and stuff that like you just not aware of, isn't it? And I mean, like, it does change everything, doesn't it? Just being able to think, oh, I can need this, like the bed, for example, in it, because a lot of people they do resort to taking out loans, like you said, like as people think, and this is where people end up in debt and they struggle because it's like, well, we need stuff, like we need, you know, so it is good to know that there is stuff out there, like, and it, like, I just rave. That's why I rave about CAB all the time because they know their stuff as well, and I think for me that would be the number one place. If you're not sure, go and speak to CAB because they can just give you I mean, accessing an appointment for CAB can be very difficult. I will say that, but if you can, like, definitely, it's well worth it.
What I would say is, I mean, I've tried getting in touch with CAB recently about different things, and I would say getting in touch with them via email over the phone.
Yeah.
It is worth doing because in person they had these leaflets. Well, my local CAB in Rhyl had leaflets. Scan the QR code, ask your question online via the website, like a little chatbot thing. I thought, brilliant. Why not? Do you know what I mean? Save a bit of time. I scanned it and it said this website's not available. So what happened is they hadn't paid for the website domain to carry on.
Great.
So now people are scanning this QR code and the website's not even live anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I would say is ring. I don't like speaking to people on the phone. Not against other people. Well, Hannah probably thinks I'm telling porkies because I ring her quite a lot. But if I don't know somebody, I do. I'm awful. Or it's like War and Peace. Like I'll send somebody a voice note and I'll start talking about some topic.
Yeah.
And then I'll remember I wanted to say something else. So then I'll say something else, and then I'll remember something else. And by the end of it, you've had 4 or 5 different things in the one conversation,
And
which
it's
should have
about
just been
20
one
minutes
conversation but turned into 5.
long.
What?
I said, and it's about 20 minutes long, and I have to take mental notes in my
Yeah,
head.
20
And
minutes.
I'm like, okay, she said this, then
Yeah,
she said this, then she said
yeah,
this.
literally. Literally.
Yes.
And that's not an exaggeration, and it's not a joke,
No.
okay? If you're wondering whether you have ADHD, if you can manage to send a 20-minute long voice note with many different topics, you probably are. You know, that should be one of the things on the
Don't base
assessment
your
list. Do they
diagnosis on
send
that,
voice
though.
notes that are 20 minutes long? Honestly. No, but genuinely, it's a bit of a hypocrisy, really. I send long voice notes to people I know, and I ring people I know if I'm on a long journey.
Yeah,
But if I don't know somebody, or if I know somebody can be a bit difficult and I don't like confrontation, I dread phoning them. I think, oh, can I just email them? Because then I got stuff in writing. So if
yeah,
they try and say that I was X, Y, and Z, I can be like, no, 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 look at this email.
yeah.
I covered everything. I said I should, everything I should. But on the phone, it's like words disappear into the stratosphere and you can't prove nothing. So
I do
I
get
prefer to email or WhatsApp.
Yeah, I do get that. I used to be quite funny about phoning people, but then when I was a manager for a short time, I had to phone people. And when you become a manager, life changes. Yes, I'm all right about
Mm,
it now. But yeah, I do get it though, because especially when it's like the unknown. So when you're dealing with DLA or PIP or
yes.
something like that, like I remember when our mum was obviously having her PIP calls when and she'd be like, she's
Yeah.
quite a confident woman, isn't she? Like, she was so nervous. Like, oh, I'm having this call. But I suppose it's because of the consequence of that phone call. It's like, this phone call is
Yeah.
going to dictate a lot. So if this don't go right, and I think that's kind of what the feeling is, isn't it? Like, what is going to be the outcome of this? More than, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it depends on the circumstances. Like, if I was asked to join a Teams meeting call to advocate for one of the kids
Mm,
to do their education, health needs, whatever, I'm on that call and I'm a different person.
yeah,
Like, I will say what needs to be said
yeah,
and I will be to the point.
yeah.
But advocating for myself is like, oh. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, sure, okay. And instead I'm going, don't ask me. Oh, like literally somebody said, you know when somebody says something generally, right? They
Yeah.
say it generally, but their eyes are locked on you, right?
Yeah.
So we're in this meeting and somebody says, oh, if somebody could pop by to this place and pick up this thing, and their eyes locked on me. And I sat there, and what got me was they said, if you're passing by at the end. I live nowhere near this place they were talking about. So I'm on the edge of my seat thinking, you've looked right at me as if to say, you're going to say yes, like this. But then you've also said, if you're passing by, that is the furthest place from where I live, which means, no, I'm not going to jump up and say, yes, I will do it. So I just sat there. I just sat there frozen. And then other people interjected and were like, oh, I don't mind and I don't mind. But I felt their eyes lock on me like, you're going to say yes. And I was like, oh, because they know me. They know my automatic answer usually is yes.
And it's
But
so funny,
yeah,
isn't
when
it?
they added on, if you're passing by.
Yeah, and it's so funny
Yeah.
because if it was me, I'd be like, "No, Stars, I live nowhere near there." Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gobby enough to be like, "No."
But they didn't even say my name.
Yeah.
Like, my name wasn't said. It was just the eyes. And I just froze. Like, I wanted to speak, but nothing was happening. I was just frozen in place. And then other people started to say, oh, I don't mind and I don't mind. And then I kind of relaxed and breathed again.
That is funny. Oh, it is funny. That's hilarious.
Oh, so yes, I think, yeah, it depends on the circumstances. I think people are happy enough. Well, it depends. I had to learn, I think,
Mm.
when I started the process with Elena for the diagnoses, and then the DLA, and then the trying to get her in the right education, like I was just on 100 miles an hour, fight, 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 recharge, fight, 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 fight. And I soon had to learn you gotta be pushy. You gotta say it how it is. You've got to demand what your child needs. So because I learned that, that became what gear I shifted into when it came to that. But in
Definitely.
the beginning, if a parent doesn't know
Mm,
that being polite and asking nicely gets you nowhere, then, this is good for them to listen to. Being
definitely.
pushy, even if it's not in your nature.
Yeah. Oh, I think you have. I think pushy parents are good parents. Like, to a degree, I suppose. Like, there's no need to be rude. But I think,
Definitely to a degree.
yeah, like, I think you gotta be pushy. Like, hang on a minute. Like, these are my kids we're talking about. Like, we're not talking about Bob down the road. Like, these are my kids. I love them. I look after them. And you want the best for them. And if you feel like somebody's not giving them
Yeah.
the care and the attention that they need and they should be having, you need to speak up.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, if
yeah.
something goes wrong, you'll think, why didn't I? And it's nothing worse than that regret, is there? They're being like, oh, I should have said this and I should,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
no point of shoulda, woulda, couldas, is it? Like, you just do it. Like, I just think
Yeah.
that, like, and I look back at
Yeah.
like my girls and like fair play, like they're very independent. And I'm like, I mean, Carrier's only 4. But Destiny is very independent and very mature. And a lot of people, like, she's only 12 this year. Like, we've started going to a new church and she's making
Yeah.
friends. And they all think she's like 15, 14, 15. And it's because she's so
Mm,
independent and so mature, and it's because I've kind of like instilled
yeah.
in her and I've been that pushy parent for her. And I'm like, no, whereas Carrier now, she is like trying to be independent and Destiny's like, no, I'll do it. And Carrier's like, let me do it. But it's like, but again, it's like I'm having to be pushy then and be like, no, let her do it. Like, it's like, you've got to be pushy in so many aspects of life, haven't you? Go into with the school, whether your
Absolutely.
kids have got needs or not, and it, you've got to be pushy, man. Like,
Yeah. I have to say as well, like bringing the conversation back around a little bit to DLA and things. There's also misconceptions, I think, from professionals
mm,
about their perception of you as a parent, and actually DLA fixes everything.
yeah,
Like I remember having a meeting and a professional kept saying, that's what DLA's for, that's what DLA's for, that's what DLA's for. And I was like, whoa, like DLA does not pay for everything.
yeah,
If you think you've got a child that is, nearly 6, is in nappies that are size 7, 8, and let's face it, we're broaching on that cusp of these aren't going to fit him anymore. We're
yeah,
going to end up on the whole teenage adult nappy line. They're expensive.
yeah,
So you've got that. You've got the fact that say your child strips. So that means you've got to buy summer swimsuits that zip up at the back for bedwear, for pajamas,
mm,
and buy them every single year in excess because they break easily.
yeah,
You've got to replace bedding, you've got to replace a window that's cracked, you've got to replace a door because he's worked it out, you've got to replace a bed. Like, to just say, like, as like a general statement, DLA that's what it's there for. It's like saying, whoa, 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 DLA is not a huge amount of money.
yeah,
Let's just like
exactly.
rewind a bit here.
Yeah.
It's not millions kind of thing.
Yeah, there's not like a magic
So
unlimited
yeah,
DLA budget, is there? And and this is where I think people have got to
exactly.
kind of realise this is why changes are coming with PIP. It's not that they're being horrible,
Yeah.
it's that so many people are claiming, and I will say falsely claiming, more on
Mm,
the don't shoot the messenger, but this is fact. I've seen it on the more on the mental health side. I'm not saying that people with mental health shouldn't have it, but what I am saying, there are many, 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 many youngsters who are falsely
mm,
claiming PIP and then sniffing it up their nose, if we all understand what I'm saying. So I understand. So the issue we've then got, our budgets then, that for people who genuinely need the PIP and genuinely need the DLA, it's going up youngsters' nose because they're not being
Mm.
assessed properly. They're doing over the phone assessments. So then these kids are just phoning up,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, I don't know why I just picked up,
Yeah.
you know, so then it's something,
I don't know.
I don't know, but so something does need to happen. So, but I think when you,
Yeah, I think yeah.
go on.
No, I would just say my biggest concern is for those with the
Yeah,
neurodivergence because of the fact that a lot of them use their PIP, the ones that use it properly, for support, for personal assistance. So
yeah,
they pay for those personal assistants themselves out of their PIP.
yeah.
And if they come across as managing, because let's face it, a lot of them mask,
Of course they
if
do.
they come across as managing and that money's taken away, that is a concern for me. To me, it's like if you're going to reduce what's available for these people
Mm.
who clearly have a lifelong medical condition, then you need to put the support in place to replace the money.
I agree.
Simple as.
I agree.
So
And I
it's
think,
accessible and usable.
yeah, I agree. And I think what they need to bring back is the face to face assessments. I think you bring back the face to face assessments, the amount of applications will drop like that because the false claimants, well, they're not going to claim then, are they?
Yeah.
Because they know they're going to get caught out. And I think then is part of being like, that,
And yeah.
go on. So there's a delay. So it's not picking up quite.
Yeah, so I can't tell when you finish talking and when I start
Yeah,
talking.
yeah.
So on the back of that, yes, if they're going to bring back face to face, right, for assessments, all I would stipulate is they need people that are trained
Yeah.
to recognise autism and its spectrum, to recognise the difficulties, especially for those high functioning that mask.
Yeah.
A good example is a girl I used to support. If you spoke to her in a conversation in a cafe, you probably would think, oh, she manages fine. But
Mm.
she was struggling with medications, being violent, aggressive, overweight, overspending, like didn't understand how to clean, didn't understand how to cook. That's how she was when I first started working with her, right? Obviously, after 2 years, she did a massive amount of improvements in her own lifestyle, but that's because she had the support.
Yeah.
So I do think they need people that are highly trained to
I
pick
agree.
out when the person's masking and when they actually could do with more support
I
than it
agree.
might first appear. So they need to get the balance right, basically.
Definitely. And this is where I think, so I agree that there needs to be changes, but I definitely think there needs to be done correctly. Because if they get this wrong,
Yeah,
it's gonna blow up. You know, like they need to get it right. And
yeah,
this is part of the being a pushy parent thing. You know, if you have an assessment done and they say no and push, like you gotta fight for it. Because you understand why they're being ruthless, but at the same time, if you know you're entitled to something, you gotta push. Gotta. Definitely.
absolutely. And just I thought of another thing I didn't mention,
Yeah.
which is carers allowance.
Oh yeah, go on.
So yeah, I know. So carers allowance is £83.30 a week,
That's
right?
a
So you need to evidence that you care for someone for at least 35 hours a week and that they get certain benefits. Okay, you would get paid every 4 weeks. And if you do work, then you can only work a certain limited amount of hours and earn a certain limited amount of pay. You're talking you could maybe get away with earning £120 a week to
right.
be eligible for carers allowance, right? So if there are any people out there considering maybe I should give up my job and then I can claim carers, it doesn't give you a lot of money for caring for a person with a disability. So you see top up would have to come into account there to support you through that. But yeah, you could be entitled to things like a carer's card. Not everywhere does them. I haven't seen a carer's card personally myself, but there's loads of things that people don't realise are out there. Like as an example, going to theme parks. If you go to any of the Merlin attractions, you can get a ride access pass for your child with a disability. You do not have to pay for that pass. As long as you can evidence, and there is a whole process, I'm not going to lie to you, So you've got to click on a certain link and then email. I can't remember now, but you can find it on the website. You have to email with the DLA letter, the evidence to support your child's needs. And then what happens then is they give your child a certain rating for getting on rides. And then you're issued like a code. And one thing I did learn though is even though you're issued the code and you can like put that in to get a printed out ride access pass, you still need to book your child's visit with a ride access pass separate to booking to attend. So say I've booked online saying, right, I'm going to Alton Towers on Friday. If I'm getting my child a ride access booklet along with their pass, I've got to then click on a different link and book them in on that day as a ride access pass user. So that's definitely worth noting. And then when you get to the theme park, they give you your card with your child's picture on it, and they give you a booklet. And what happens is then, if there's a ride they really want to go on that's really popular, but they struggle waiting, they just go on the ride access, they sign it off, and they get straight on that ride. And then there's a little bit of a delay before the next one. But that honestly saves meltdowns. It really does reduce the likelihood of a meltdown. But I just think when you look out for these things, make sure you do your research, because with that, you have to have your ride access sorted at least a week in advance of going. So you can't just rock up with your DLA letter. You have to have it all in hand and have it ready a week in advance.
That's good though, isn't it? Like, I mean, it sounds like a bit of a farce to book them in. Like, as you were talking, I was thinking about it then. I was thinking, oh, but I suppose, like, on that, the staff then are prepared for that day. Look, we've got so many children with these access passes going to be in the park today. Like, da 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 da. And I suppose then they make sure that they've got the right facilities available then, can't they? So I suppose it's kind of like helps the staff out a little bit to know what to expect on it.
Yeah, it does. And also, like, as much as it's a bit of a faff on the parent side prepping for a theme park day, which is enough work as it is, like, we've experienced it where we thought you could have the DLA letter, show them, and they'll give you one. No, no, no. Didn't happen. And we were waiting for this waterlog ride. We were in the queue, and we were in this queue for 2 hours, and Elena was really, really struggling. And let's just say she needed to be on that water ride by the end of it. And the lady was going to make us wait another wait. And I went, no, she needs to get on it now. Like, she's waited 2 hours. She is on the verge. Like, please. I said, she is autistic. We just didn't get the thing in time. And she went, yeah, okay, and let us on. If she hadn't, I don't even want to imagine what would have happened. But yes, I think if you want to reduce the likelihood of a meltdown, definitely get that
So good.
sorted.
Yeah.
But there's other parents I know of that didn't even know about it.
Yeah,
And they've got a child that's diagnosed for years, but they didn't even know they could access that. So
yeah,
get researching, people.
definitely. That's well worth having in it. Definitely. That's good.
Right, so I think we've covered what have we covered? DLA, PIP, access to work, disability facilities grant, and carers allowance. You can also get, obviously I talked about the ride access, and you can also get a cinema card for your child with a disability as well. So you can apply for a cinema card. So there's lots out there. There is so much available. What I will do is when I post. I'm not sure which one I'm going with.
I think you
When this
tried all
video
of them in one.
appears on YouTube, I did. I tried to amalgamate them all. So when this video appears on YouTube, I shall put the links to all these things in the comments. So that way you can just click on whichever one's relevant. And now I'm getting all lyrical and yeah. I can't help myself. I just get all like this. So any parting thoughts to close the
You
session?
know what? I
The
came
discussion.
across earlier is discount for carers. So because of my job currently, I'm classed as a carer. I thought, ooh, let's have a little looky. Now I registered an account, tried to sign in, it was showing my password was wrong, and I hate it when that happens. So I haven't gone any further. But if you're
Okay.
registered a carer or as a parent for the care for your child, like like can't get my words out, like claiming carer's allowance, you can have an account. If you're for example, for me, I'm a registered social care worker or childcare worker. I don't know what it's called, but I'm a carer anyway in work. If you're an employee for a company, anything like that, you can have discounts for carers. I did look on the website earlier, but I was having trouble. But it might be worth people looking at.
There we go. So I think we've given quite a good fair few top tips there, Beck.
Yes, I think so too.
So yeah, lots and lots to look at. Speaking of money, and this is not linked to what you guys can get, but linked to the journey of Heart of Home and where we are at. So I'm looking to get my MVP launched. What is an MVP? Ooh, I'm not going to assume you don't know what it is. Basically, it is a startup version of my product, like the foundation phase. Let's just call it that. So I do have a GoFundMe page, and guess what? I'm going to put that in the comments too. So if you do feel compelled to donate or share my GoFundMe page, I will not stop you. No, I will not. Because obviously very passionate about getting this app out there. Because yeah, the sooner we can get it out there helping people and show investors, hey, people are getting helped and they like it. They're loving it, loving it, loving it. Then the sooner we can get the full-fledged app out there. I was so excited. And I think that is now it from me. Can you tell I'm getting tired? I get a bit loopy when I get tired. Oh, hashtag. Oh, do you know what? Elaine was doing that on the Alton Towers rides. I kid you not. So when the camera, because she clocks the camera on every single ride, and she's like, hashtag, hashtag, hashtag.
Brilliant. We know where she's got that from.
Honestly, there's one perfect picture of her doing the hashtag, and it's clearly got to do with the hashtag.
Brilliant. Oh, that's so good.
Oh dear, my brain was boggled after that day though.
Huh.
Like, she got me on Oblivion, Nemesis, and then there's this new one, Nemesis Subterra. It's a bit like sensory, and it honestly, me and Dad were laughing on it. It was hilarious. And then Galactica,
Oh,
right?
I don't do rides.
So by the end of it, and bearing in mind, right, she did Oblivion, then after Nemesis, she went again, and I was like, no, and she literally leapt
No.
off and like walked in a straight line, and there's me going, where's the floor, kind of thing, and then we did Galactica, bearing in mind it tips you like that. So you literally tipped, and it like takes you all in loop-de-loops, right? So by the end of it, I was like, oh, I feel a bit shaken and stirred. Do you know what I mean? My brain's been, blended, kind of thing.
Oh.
So she goes again after we get in, and I'm like, no. So she gets off, and I was like, Elena, I was like, you are going to have to slow the pace, mate. I can't even walk right now. Just don't.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
So
You need
yes,
to
I've
take it
learned.
slow.
I've reached an age now where I cannot go on those kind of rides one after another. No,
They give me.
it was too much. But Elena, she was raring to go. Like, she must have gotten something sensory out of it. It was like,
Yeah.
again,
It's the
again.
adrenaline in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, so we shall be bringing you another podcast in June. Not sure 100% what it's going to be about, but that's what keeps the suspense, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Keeps it exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, shall we say so long, farewell, goodbye,
Avita
goodbye, goodbye.
goodbye. Oh, that was really
What
bad.
is it? Avita, Avita say.
Avita
Avita
say
say
good
say.
night. Adieu, adieu. Take you,
Okay.
yeah, and yeah.
So yeah and yeah and yeah. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
At the heart of home, where the love flows